While it might not be obvious, we're looking at one of the most iconic motorcycles of the late 1980s into the late 1990s. This is a 1996 Honda CBR 600 F3. It was produced from 1995 until 1998, and it carried on a winning tradition that Honda had with the F2, which came before it. So ultimately, not only was it a great bike for the street, selling tons of motorcycles, like 50,000 plus units. It also won a number of AMA Supersport championships in the hands of Miguel Duhamel, who became the winningest racing driver in that entire category. So the production numbers weren't really that great, made about 100 horsepower, so by modern standards it's not really anything to write home about. However, in terms of the era, it won every single shootout that it came across, providing performance and comfort that really was unmatched inside the category. Overall, if you're looking for a little bit of vintage vibes, the 600 F3 is a really cool bike to take a look at.
Oh, buddy, there you go. The Repsol race kit is now installed around the tires, and as you can see, I have a brand new Repsol orange chain that is going to be going on here. The sprockets should arrive tomorrow or Saturday. I've got new rear sprocket because this chain's been on here for probably 8 years or more, and as you can see, it's pretty worn out, and this chain is very worn out. This is not a happy chain, so we are replacing it with a Repsol chain. I also have a complete Repsol body kit coming for this. This bike is almost 30 years old. It's almost an antique, and I replaced a huge majority of the major components on this thing and almost redid the entire electrical system on this bike. And the only reason I took this bike on is because it is a unicorn. It is a very rare bike. You just don't see these around anymore, and if you do find one, they're very expensive. This one was on its way to a junkyard, to kind of give you a little backstory, and saw the guy posted it. He wanted a lot of money for it, ready to go to a junkyard, and you know what? I was like, I don't care, I'm gonna buy it. So I went down and bought it. It had all the wrong plastics on it, had the wrong seat. I had to order the original seat. Everything was just really rough on this bike. It was definitely on its way to a junkyard. So if I hadn't bought this bike, it wouldn't have had a second life. So I decided to clean everything, replace everything, go through and put carbon fiber trim work on all of it, make it beautiful, little new age technology. This bike was released before they had GPS and cell phone stuff, so I had to rework a lot of this and customize it to make it fit instead of doing a quad lock system. And then I redid all this because this was all broken out and smashed forward, so I redid all this and mounted it. Again, everything, carbon fiber, all of it, put a little bit newer technology on the braking system for adjusting stuff. I mean, new ignition, as you can see. I had to rewire the entire bike because it was hot wired, because for whatever reason they screwed it up. I did put new turn signals on here. They're waiting for the new plastics. I wired all those in. New turn signals on the rear. Redid the clutch. Completely redid the clutch. New pads, new friction plates. The stator regulator charging system was screwed, so I direct wired a big majority of this and put new seals in here. I also tuned the carburetors, flopped a new battery in it. I'm okay with the exhaust, but as you can see, I direct wired a lot of the bike that was failing because of burned connectors due to age and catching on fire. And so new regulator, rectifier, stator, cam chain tensioner. I did put new shims in the valves. I redid all the cooling system. The fan wasn't working, so I took a lot of time to address the fan on the bike to make it work. Took off the clutch, placed all that, and now it rips. I'm still thinking about putting new mirrors on it, but I've got new plastics coming for this. This was the bike that owned in the 90s. This is a very iconic machine right here. This is a 1995, here, I'll show you right there. 1995, manufacturing date, 1995. CBR 600 F3 Super Sport. This was the Repsol race bike for the race team Honda. And this bike, this and the 900RR, CBR 900RR, were two very iconic machines from the 90s, early 2000s. they're just hard to get your hands on. So despite how ugly it looks now, I'll show you what it's going to look like with the mini picture. I've already started on that. All we're waiting for now is the plastics. I have finished everything else on the bike. I just have to do something with the seat now, give that a good cleaning. I don't think I need to recover it. It just looks like it needs a very thorough deep cleaning. I bought that for $100 off eBay because the seat that came on this was garbage. I'll show you what this bike looked like when I first got it, right there on the right, and what it's going to look like here on the left. Also, I had to direct wire the main headlight. There was an exhaust leak. I had to pull the radiator and fix the O-rings on the exhaust headers. And then I had to wire in a whole new light system, so I decided to upgrade the lighting kit that was in here with something much brighter. And yeah, and then we tuned the carbs, put them on the synchronizing rack, and gave it a very thorough tuning job on the carburetors. And so now this thing purrs like a kitten. So we were putting the Repsol orange stickers around the rims today. I'm getting ready for the new orange chain to go on there, a new sprocket kit, and then after that, I have to paint this one side cover, and then all new plastics go on this bike. I've been waiting for them for over a month now. They should be here pretty soon. I'm hoping to have this bike on the road and ready for the bike meets by mid-June. And this bike I'll probably have for quite some time. It's got almost 40,000 miles on it. I did a lot of work to the engine. Sounds, runs perfect. It's got 39,642 miles on it. For a 28-year-old bike, that's actually fairly low miles, to be honest with you. I've seen much newer bikes with a lot more miles on them, so I think this bike has a lot of life left in it. So, yep, I decided to put the work into it. The problem was it went through probably 5 people that did zero maintenance to the bike. And then I got my hands on it and had to redo everything. Brake pads, all of it. I mean, the whole thing needed a revamp. It was horrible. God, was this bike in just rough shape when I got it. So I'll show you a picture with the original plastics and some off an F2 that weren't even designed for the bike over here. Here's the original. This is what's going to be done to it with the original Repsol Honda Race Team plastics on it and the original numbers and all that. That's what we're going to be doing to it. So hopefully in a month, next time you guys actually see this bike, it'll look completely different. You'll be like, what the hell? Like, that's not the same bike. No, it totally is the same bike. So anyways, this will be probably the final video you guys see until after it's completed now with all the new cosmetics and stuff. All the mechanical stuff is done outside of the chain and new sprockets. So I've got it jacked up. Waiting for the sprockets to get here. Before I take off the old chain and stuff, I'm going to measure it, make sure that the new sprockets fit the new chain. I believe that's a 520, and what's coming off here is a 525. So I'm actually going to go to a little bit smaller chain because I don't think whoever put that big chain on there, that's a 5, actually I think that's a 530, and it should have been a 525, but we're going to go ahead and downgrade it to a 520. Because I'm not going to be racing this bike. It's not a bike that's ever going to see a drag strip. It doesn't need that big heavy chain on there tearing up the engine. So when this bike still used to produce ridiculous amounts of power brand new off the lot, a chain like that might have been necessary, but we're going to granny this bike. I mean, we'll still have fun with it, but we're going to granny it. It's an old bike, and it's an iconic machine from the past. This thing owned the race scene in the 90s. So this was such a phenomenal machine.
8 AMA National Road Racing Championships, 5 Daytona 200 wins, 86 career AMA wins. These are the accomplishments of just one man, the winningest road racer in AMA history, Miguel Duhamel. Perhaps even more impressive is the diversity of his achievements. The 1995 AMA Superbike Championship, 32 AMA Superbike victories, 5 AMA Supersport titles, the Supersport class record for the most race wins, 41, and the longest winning streak at 10. The last rider to win titles in both the 600 Supersport and the Superbike class in the same year, 1995. 2 600 class AMA Formula Extreme Championships. Without a doubt, Duhamel was AMA road racing's most dominant rider through the 1990s and early 2000s.